Creek Football Show, presented by Julian Peeples Funeral Homes. Now, here's your host, Tony Crossen, with head football coach Drew Carter.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Coahulla Creek wrap-up, end of the year, preview to next season, the 24 season football show, presented by Julian Peeples Funeral Home. I'm your host, Tony Crossen, and with me, Coach Drew Carter, back to give you all things Coahulla Creek football. Coach, it's good to see you again. We're going to take a little bit of time. We're going to go back through our season and talk about our games that we played this year, hit some highlights on some stats from the season, and then we'll talk about kind of next year, what we're expecting with our new region and looking forward to our kids coming back and things we got to do differently.
Yeah, we'll put a stamp on everything we have done in 2023. Some high notes, some not so high notes, but overall, couldn't be more proud of what our program did, what our kids have done, and what our community got to see this year.
Coach, I think we had a great season. Looking forward to the next season, but I'm really proud of the job you guys did as coaches in your first season as head coach. Yeah. What a great job you guys did. We're very lucky to have you and a coaching staff that we do here at Coahulla Creek.
Yeah, I've echoed that to all the coaches as I've met with them the last few weeks and few days, telling them how appreciative I am of them and how easy I felt like my first year as a head coach was because of them.
Right.
You got a ton of experience.
That's right.
That I can lean on. So made my job easier, and I really feel like we maximized what we had with our kids. We knew coming into this season the challenges that we would have with replacing all the guys that we had to replace from the year before, and I think our guys answered the call and did some good stuff this year.
Yeah, and you're right. And something good for you is you didn't have to replace a lot of coaches that were already on staff. You just jumped into your role, and it made the transition a lot easier.
Yeah, a lot of familiarity there with me and them, and then also with the staff and the kids. So I think you saw that, and that was one of the reasons we were able to have some of the success that we had.
Yeah, because you just continued on from the year before in a lot of ways.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and start hitting some of our games from last year. We'll talk through them and kind of hit some highlights and go from there.
Opened up the season week 1 in August, made the short trip over to Chatsworth and had a good night over at Murray County and came out on top 42-13 against those guys.
Yeah, we had a good show, and I felt like we started strong in that game. Mm-hmm. We got to play a lot of kids in that game, which is pivotal. We talked about that all season with the experience the kids were gaining through every game this season.
Yeah, we hope that we're able to get some see the benefits of that as we go into next year with those guys getting to play. But some of the guys had a huge night. You said we started pretty fast, had an early score. Keith Collins had a touchdown catch down the sideline, but really that second half we really exploded.
Right.
Had some guys have some big games. I think Karen Bradley had a 100-yard rushing game. Chase had some really good runs. Also threw for a little over 150 yards. Luke Swinney had a long touchdown catch. So a lot of things going on in that game.
That was a game we kind of found ourselves where we knew that we were going to have a lot of stamina, and our conditioning was going to be what got us through, because we had a really good second half like you're talking about, and we really outperformed them in that regard.
Yeah, I was really proud of our conditioning that night because we started playing a little faster too as the game went on. We saw Murray County get worn down, and we did not. We were able to hit some big plays because of that. We already mentioned Luke Swinney with the big touchdown catch over the top. But that was one of those instances where we were starting to play fast tempo against Murray, and they couldn't keep up with us, and we caught them sleeping with that.
All right, the second game of the season, we went over to Northwest Whitfield, trying to repeat what we had last year, and we felt like we had a good opportunity to do that. Yeah,
talk about starting off fast. I feel like the first quarter and a half or so, we really played them tough. We're up 7-0. They had a long drive and scored right as the second quarter started. Still were playing tough, and then the wheels kind of fell off in that second quarter. Had a couple of turnovers, had a drop pass on a 4th down that gave them another short field, and they just scored really quick on us, and we kind of lost our way there in the second quarter of that game.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to come back before halftime and give up 35 points in one quarter, like you said, with the wheels falling off.
Yeah, and it's tough to stop that momentum when all that's going wrong. It's a rivalry game. and the emotions being what they are of that game. So it was a tough one for our kids and our staff. But I tell you, what really made us proud was how they responded. We had a bye week the following week, so you had 2 weeks to think about that.
Right.
And then we were able to come back out the week after that against Chattooga. Didn't get the result we wanted, but felt like we played really well.
Yeah, third game of the year. We traveled over to Chattooga and played a great game. It was a slow start.
Yeah.
We had opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, the game shouldn't have been as close as it was. I had an opportunity and couldn't come up with that field goal at the end of the game, but we battled that whole game.
Yeah, I felt like our defense played really well.
They played great.
Kept us in the game. Had a tough time finding our momentum on the offensive side of the ball, but again, the defense held us in the game the whole time.
They did.
I mean, you start looking down through the stat sheet. Nate Tilley, 9 total tackles that game, had a sack. Keith Collins just doing his normal stuff that game. He's all over the field. Had a really big punt return that game where we faked the reverse and he comes down the sideline and really got us jump started.
Right.
Was kind of the spark that got everything going.
Yeah, in a game where your offense doesn't produce very much, you got to have your defense step up, and we got that in that game.
Yeah.
You're going to have nights like that.
Yeah, and that was one of those games where our defense was on the field so much. I think that hurt us down the line because we missed a couple of tackles late and gave them an opportunity to get a couple of scores and win.
Right.
Was definitely an exciting end of the game, though. You know, we go down and Nate Tilley catches the what we thought was going to be a game tying to put us into overtime catch, but came out on the short end of that one. It was a tough loss for us, but the effort was unbelievable in that game.
Right.
When you watched the way our defense flew around and did some good things on the offensive side of the ball, but still trying to find our way and find our identity.
Right. We traveled well that game also. Good crowd support, as we did the whole season, actually.
Yeah.
All right, next game of the season, we hosted Ridgeland. Actually, did we go to Ridgeland? No, we hosted Ridgeland, right?
No, that we were there.
We did go there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. We traveled to Ridgeland for our first region game of the season, and we had a good showing. We looked really good.
Yeah, that was a big game for us to kind of find our way. Had 2 tough losses in a row.
Right.
You know, sometimes those close losses like we had against Chattooga are tougher to rebound from when you get blown out. You know, you kind of get punched in the gut,
right.
And our guys really responded well.
That's right, and that's what you're looking for your team as they grow throughout the season.
Yeah.
Had a good offensive night against Ridgeland.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Ward, I feel like that was kind of his coming out party to really get going and really started getting us an identity of what we were going to be offensively.
Right.
And he threw for 159 yards and then added 89 rushing yards on it, and that's when we saw things start to happen with our offense, is when our quarterback could do things like he was doing that night. And distribute the ball and be involved in the run game. Everything just started to click.
Yeah, we're starting to find some guys to make plays on offense and getting the ball out with some guys getting their feet wet and getting some experience, and it really started showing up about this time of the season.
Yeah, we already mentioned Luke Sweeney. He had another long touchdown catch. And then this was also one of Karen Bradley's best performances of the year, too. I think he might have had 3 touchdowns in that game. Maybe it was just 2. But he carried the ball really well.
He ran hard.
Yeah, ran hard. That was the biggest thing for him. He didn't go down on first contact. Had a really good showing. But man, I tell you, defensively that game, those guys were flying all over the place. Levi Lowry had over 10 tackles.
Tackles for loss, which he did all season.
Yeah, he was all over the place. I think Chevy Joyce had a couple of sacks that game.
Right.
Had a couple of big hits too that were rushing the quarterback. And we forced, I know a couple of turnovers. I think we had 2 turnovers that game that we forced. So all around, really good game that we needed to start region play.
Right.
A lot of guys show up in the stat box that game, whether it be catching the football, key blocks on the offensive line. You know, we had over 100 yards rushing that game with a lot of guys carrying the football. So really good performance all around. Like
John, good start coming out 1-0 region record.
Yep.
The next game we'll host Lakeview, Fort Oglethorpe. That was also our homecoming game, correct?
Yep. Finally got to come home at that point in the season.
That's right. That's our first home game on our new field.
Yep.
Fans were excited. Everything looked great.
Yeah, it was a really exciting night all around. I mean, you mentioned a lot of stuff. Homecoming, home opener on the new field.
Right.
And I don't know if we could have started much better either. Defense, I think, went out, forced a 3 and out, and in the very first play on offense, Chase pops one for about 50 yards to get everybody going, and that was a fast start.
As he did a lot of games this season. He made that read and put the Jets on and gained some great yards.
Yeah.
Ended up scoring 41 points that game.
Yeah. Really good night for us offensively. And you look at what we did defensively that game, the score's a little bit deceiving. We gave up 21 points. I think they got a touchdown on us late where they hit us over the top. So
a lot of those points came late in the game where we got some kids in the game getting some playing time.
Yeah, it was one of those games where you felt like you really had control of the game the whole way. And again, finding our identity when the quarterback's involved, everybody else starts clicking. Danny Lighty started carrying the ball really well for us and had a nice game. Spreading the ball around. Mark Solis had a really big game offensively. That was the first game we kind of had him back. He'd been dealing with some injuries. He had 5 catches for 100 yards and had a big touchdown catch in that game. So a lot of good things going on that night.
The defense played well that night also. I think we had some guys that had a couple of interceptions in that game too, forced some turnovers.
Yeah. We had a fumble recovery, had a couple of interceptions.
Tyler Douglas had 2 interceptions that game.
Could have been 3 actually. I think he
dropped one. That's right.
Yep. On the sideline over there. Keith Collins had a pick. So I mean, another good all-around game, all 3 phases of the game. So you're really excited about that and put us to 2-0 in the region at that point in the year.
Good start in the region. All right, so our 3rd region game in the season, we're going to travel over to Gordon Lee High School where, that game was a heartbreaker. Again, similar to a game early in the season against Chattooga, we had so many opportunities to win that game, which would have not even made the score as close as it should have been. Played great defense, overcame adversity. Made a couple of mistakes, but we had a chance to still win the game after that and just came up short. Yeah,
a real heartbreaker. It really tested the closeness of our team, the resiliency of our team. Like you said, I mean, you could go down the list in the stat book. We did some really good stuff, but we had a couple of turnovers in the red zone was really the difference of the game.
Right.
Questionable fumble call where we thought Karam had gotten into the end zone, and then Danny Lighty had a really good run that got us down inside the 5-yard line, and the guy made a good play and stripped the ball out of his hand. But really tough night in Chickamauga that night, and
it just came down to 1 point, but there were things that happened throughout the game to get you to that point. And like you said, brought the team closer together. I felt like we played a great game. The kids responded. In our next game, we came back home to face Ringgold High School. And came away with a victory. A close game.
Talk about a huge game. I mean, being able to bounce back off of a heartbreaker the week before, again, just shows our kids' character and how much fight they've got in them. And it showed up through this game too, because we're down in the 4th quarter against a good opponent. We've had
after leading the whole game, they came back and took the lead, and we kind of felt like, hey, are we just gonna lay down, or how are we going to respond?
And we had a big night out of a lot of guys.
This was Nate's biggest night receiving,
had a huge game catching the football, had 132 yards receiving on 5 catches, 2 touchdowns. Luke Sweeney had 100 yards receiving that night. So obviously we had a good night through the air. I think Chase ended up with 310 yards that night, which was a new school record for passing yards in a game. But man, our defense really played solid. Ringgold had a couple of really good running backs, and their quarterback was a good athlete, and we did a good job of holding them in check that night too.
It was a great night, great atmosphere. That was our televised game where we had a lot of good things going on to promote the school, and the field looked really good on television.
You saw probably the most exciting finish of the year too.
No doubt about that.
When you think about we score with about 30 seconds left in the game, or 45 seconds, somewhere around in there, and our defense has to come out and get another stop, and we end up the way we do. So awesome night for our program and our community, and a great win right there.
Right, and at that point where we go to 4-1 in the region, correct?
Been 3-1, wasn't it?
3-1.
Yeah,
that's
3-1 in the region at that point in the season.
All right, next game we're going to travel to Bremen.
Yeah,
that's a long road trip for anybody.
Yeah, and a tough to travel down there, a tough place to play, and a really good football team. I mean, we ran into a really good opponent down there.
Well, we knew going down, they play smash mouth football,
Yeah.
and if you don't have the response to what they're
Yeah.
going to do, then it's a long night for anybody trying to tackle those guys.
Yeah, it was one of those nights. It was tough for our offense to get anything going, which we knew it would be. They're a really good defensive football team, and just couldn't put any pressure on them, and they kind of slowly started doing exactly what you said and kind of pushing us around.
Right.
And those 5- and 6-yard runs turned into bigger plays by the end of the game. So
Opportunities early in the game to keep
Yep.
it close and to
Yep.
make some plays, but an offense could never get established and
Yep.
get anything going.
Yep.
And
So-
that just kind of ran into all the other
Yeah,
issues.
tough night down there. And again, but I think you see our resiliency again. We'd come back after a tough loss like that and come back home the following week and host Lafayette in a big game to get the region record back where we wanted it to be, because we were 3-2 at that point in region play, needing to get
Right.
another win back in the win column.
Another good offensive output from Chase, and I think this is the game also where we had a couple of records broke as far as receiving goes, right?
Yep. Keith Collins kind of charted himself in there again. Had 166 yards receiving that night, and he was tough for Lafayette to stop that night. He was doing a little bit of everything. He caught some down the field. He was catching short passes and making big plays. A little bit of everything. But I tell you what, who else was tough that night was Karen Bradley. I thought that was probably his best performance running the ball.
Right.
Stats weren't great, but just the way he ran the ball was really tough that night.
Really tough, hard-nosed. I think I'm mistaken. This was the game that was televised, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's right. They had a real good running back who, I don't know how many yards he ended up with at the end of the year, and I can't even remember his name, but that was our biggest task, was to stop him running, and we did a really good job of that.
Yeah, we knew it was coming with them. They were going to come in with a couple of tight ends all the time, and pound the ball up inside with him. And we did a really good job of keeping their offense off the field, because when you play teams like that, it's easy for them to just milk the clock and never get anything going. But the defensive line and our linebackers played unbelievable. As you look at the defensive stat sheet, those guys showing up again. Levi Lowry, 10 tackles, gets another tackle for loss. Karen Bradley, Nate Tilley, all those guys involved getting tackles for losses.
You're dominating up front when your linemen are making a lot of plays for you on defense.
Yes, slanting through and shooting those gaps. We talked about it all season, how athletic and quick they were coming off the ball.
That's right. So that'll take our region record to 4-2. In our last game of the season, we hosted Adairsville in another game where we played tough, played well early, hung in there, and we had a chance to win that game against the number one team in the region.
Yeah, that was a heartbreaker for our seniors that night, because they absolutely played their guts out.
A couple of unfortunate injuries early in that game.
Yeah.
Took two of our best players out.
Yeah. You lose Nate Tilley earlier. I think he played 3 plays the whole night.
Yeah.
Karen Bradley
Karen
ended
went
up with a knee injury about the third series of the game. Had Jackson Millsaps get a neck injury a few series into the game. So a lot of guys had to step up that night, and we still hung in there and played them really tough, and had a chance to where you felt like you could have or should have won the game.
Right. So our overall record was 5-5, and we ended up 4-3 in the region, and we were in a tie with 2 other teams, and we ended up losing out on a tiebreaker.
Yeah, that 6-point rule, I don't know if I can really explain it to make sense,
Right.
but we were the odd man out, and that was disappointing for us, because it would have been awesome for us to be able to repeat and go back-to-back years to the playoffs.
Right.
But every little play matters, and we try to tell that to our kids. It's the little things that make the difference. You got 3 games in the region that you lose there by a total of 11 points. So little things matter.
You talk about the season, back to a game, back to a play, back to a snap. It goes all the way back. It all contributes to the final scenario.
Yep.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for our season games. We're going to take a break at this time. When we come back, we're going to have the Coahulla Creek Sports Network Top 10 Calls of the Year. Stay with us and see you after the break.
Your roof is the most critical part of your home, especially in the heat of the summer. That's why OC Roofing Systems is offering free roof inspections all summer long. Families in Ellijay have trusted OC Roofing Systems time and time again for our award-winning service and countless 5-star reviews. Protect your roof this summer. Visit ocroofingsystems.com today and schedule your free roof inspection.
Whether you're looking for a taste of classic seasonal sweetness or need to satisfy your candy cravings, DQ has something for every fan this season. So hurry into DQ on Cleveland Highway today and see what else is in store for fans all season long.
And it's a reverse here to Keith Collins, and Collins got some room down the right side. He gets past him. He's down the right side to the 30, the 35, inside the 20, all the way down to the 15-yard line. They ran a reverse on the punt return. Chad Brewer's had that one in his pocket all week, hadn't he? The special teams coordinator. They hand off to Leidy. Leidy up the middle. Leidy at the 40. Leidy at the 50. Leidy at the 45, the 40, the 35, 30, the 25, 20, still inbounds. Knocked down at the 15-yard line. A huge gain by Danny Leidy.
Wow, Danny just refused to go down there, and he kept fighting for those extra yards, man. But what a hole and what a run right there by Danny.
Ward back to pass here. He's going to go deep down the right sideline. He's got Nate Tilley in stride. Tilley all the way down inside the 5-yard line. He's at the 1-yard line. A pickup of, what was that, about 55 yards there. First and goal for Coahulla Creek down at the 1-yard line.
Yep.
Tilley got behind the defense, and Chase Ward found him. Oh my gosh, play fake here. They've got Tilley wide open. Touchdown Colts. Oh my gosh, what a play call and what execution. Nobody in the stadium knew that Tilley ran behind the defense. They ate that one up, the defense did. What a play fake. I didn't know who had the ball. Neither did the Ringgold defense. And we've got a 44-yard touchdown pass from Chase Ward to Nate Tilley. Chase sneaks up the middle. And Chase is in the end zone. Touchdown Colts.
Wow.
The tush push, just like the Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, and we got it all the way in the end zone.
Man, they just got up in front of him and just plowed their way into the end zone and just basically carried Chase right down there.
Chase back to pass, getting some pressure. He's looking. Chase is going to throw it deep into traffic. It's caught. Oh my goodness, what a catch. That was Keith Collins going up in traffic over double coverage and making the catch there. Incredible job. Chase just threw it up for him, and my goodness, what a catch by Keith Collins. 4th and 5 from the 19-yard line, 3:58 remaining. Ward back to pass. Ward looking, throws out. It's caught by Tilley. Tilley gets out of it. Tilley's in the end zone. Touchdown Colts. Oh, baby. What a play by Nate Tilley.
Absolutely. That was a perfectly thrown ball.
Clock at 25 seconds. Talley looking. Talley sacked for a loss there. Down at the 47-yard line. Ringgold's going to take a timeout. 21 seconds left in the game. Talley back to pass. They've got some pressure. He's hit as the ball is released, and they turn it over on downs, and the Colts are going to win it. Ward's going to keep down the right side. Ward's still moving out past the 30, up the middle, all the way down inside the 5-yard line. Touchdown, Chase Ward. Touchdown, Colts. How about that play? 51 yards on the first snap of the offensive side of the ball tonight, and Ward takes it all the way to the house. Man, what a keeper by Chase Ward. Colts need this 4th down conversion. Game on the line here. Ward takes the snap. He's getting some pressure. He throws it deep for Nate Tilley. It's caught by Tilley. Touchdown, Coahulla Creek. He makes the adjustment and scores. What a play by Nate Tilley. Chase Ward just lofted it up there, and he catches it in the end zone, and the Colts take the lead. Incredible.
Welcome back to the Coahulla Creek Football Show, presented by Julian Peeples Funeral Home. Again, we're back here wrapping up the season. At this time, we're going to go through some season stats. We're going to talk about some records that we have and talk about some all-region stuff that's going on. Coach, you want to take us through some of our stats?
Yeah, we had some guys do some really good stuff this year. I don't think you can start anywhere other than how our quarterback played. We mentioned it as we were reviewing the season, kind of how that made us go as an offense. Chase finished with just over 1,400 yards for the season. But maybe the more important part of that is 13 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, keeping us on the field and being efficient in how he's doing it. And he followed that up with over 500 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns, which actually tied a school record for season rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, big shoes to fill. Him coming in after Case was here, started for 3 years.
Yep.
Chase got his chance, and he didn't disappoint. He did a great job for us at quarterback this year.
Not at all. Had good numbers that we just talked about, but also did a really good job
being a leader,
getting the ball out to those other guys too. We talked about Keith Collins, and you can talk about him in a lot of different ways. Had over 400 yards receiving on 34 catches, 2 touchdowns to go with that. But you got a few other guys too. I mean, we're getting the ball distributed around. Nate Tilley didn't have as many catches, but probably more big plays though. Only 18 catches, but 366 yards. He
had a long play of 65 yards.
Yeah. But he had him and Luke Sweeney both had 4 touchdowns apiece. That was kind of the secret to winning the ball games, I think, is whenever Luke Sweeney caught the football, we were going to win when he caught touchdown passes.
And Mark was kind of quiet with his receptions, but he had a catch that went, I think, for 60 yards also.
Yeah, had a few guys that made big explosive plays and were key contributors. We had a stat earlier in the season that we had 4 guys, the ones that we just mentioned there, all 4 of them had different 100-yard games throughout the season. So I think that is a testament to what we were able to do offensively.
Right, with 9 different guys caught footballs throughout the season.
And we already mentioned Chase's rushing stats, but the next 2 guys that were kind of the two-headed monster as the season went on was Karen Bradley and Danny Lighty, and they were real complimentary in how they carried the football. Karen ended up with a little over 400 yards rushing, right at 4 yards a carry, and Danny had right at 350 yards rushing, and he was just over 5 yards per carry.
Kind of our thunder and lightning tandem.
Yeah.
Two different styles of running the football. Very effective.
As we shift over to the defensive side of the ball, we had some guys with some big numbers. We've already mentioned Keith Collins. He led our team in tackles. Him playing safety, but our safety role isn't your traditional 30-yard deep free safety. He's involved in the run game, and he comes down and makes his presence known in the run game.
He's also in the top 5, I believe, in interceptions in the region also.
Yep. Had him, Tyler Douglas, Nate Tilley, Levi Lowry. All those were in the 60s in total tackles. But probably the big one there, looking at Levi Lowry, he had 12 tackles for loss for the season, which tied a school record this season, which that's a pretty tall task right there when you're looking at he's getting more than 1 tackle for loss every game this season.
Yeah, that makes plays, makes things happen. We had a lot of guys also that contributed by getting a sack or 2 throughout the season.
Yep. Had Chevy Joyce showed up. I think he had 3 sacks on the year is what we had.
And he's a guy that didn't even play defensive line much last year. I think you brought him, had to use him as a freshman on the offensive line, and ended up converting him into a 2-way player, playing defense and offense.
He had to go both ways this year. And
that's a testament to that strength he is, and getting in there and mixing it up like he does on the wrestling mat.
Yep. Good athlete, and his focus and level of seriousness that he brings every week is huge. So some big deals right there. With what we've run through right there, guys did some good things, and
How many school records did we have broken this year?
Keith broke the catches in single game
receptions.
Had 11 against Gordon Lee, and then he also broke the yards in one game against Ringgold.
Single game receiving yards.
Well, I think he had 166 is what we had him at. So big deals there. And then in that same game against Ringgold, Chase broke the single game record for yards in a game with 310. And then we had Levi Lowry. We already mentioned that he set the season record for tackles for loss, but he also set the single game record for tackles for loss with 5.
That's an awesome stat. Let's take a look at some region stats that we have here that have been sent to us, just where some of our guys stood up against others in region standings. As far as the team offense goes, we were 3rd in the region in scoring, averaging 25.7 points per game. A testament to our offense. Our offense had good output this season. As far as defense goes, we were also 3rd in defense in total yards per game. Good testament to our defense. As far as receiving, Keith was 2nd in the region at 440 yards. We've talked about him several times. He was also the top single game receiving performances in the region with 11 catches in that one game. That was tops for the whole region this season. Also, talking about offense, Chase was 2nd in total offense for the region with 1,932 yards, and he also had the top single game offensive performance with 410 yards against Ringgold this season. Also, we talked about Chevy against Gordon Lee this season. He had the top single game sack performance as far as the region goes.
Yep.
Interceptions also, we talked about that. Tyler Douglas, earlier, he had 2 interceptions in a game, which was good for the top interception performance in the region.
Yeah, so some good stuff going on with our guys. You know, you lose a few of those guys, but the best part about that is several of those guys that you mentioned, we'll have them back next year too.
Right. At this time, we're going to take a look at some of our Colt football players who earned all region honors.
Junior's Building Materials, the Tri-State's headquarters with building products for builders, contractors, remodeling projects, and do-it-yourselfers. Junior's is the largest dealer stocking Trex decking, the world's #1 composite decking brand. Trex isn't just boards and balusters, but a new way to live outdoor and virtually maintenance-free. For all your building or remodeling needs, shop Junior's Building Materials.
Junior's Building Materials, we always come through for you.
Nature never repeats itself, and neither does Mohawk's Techwood hardwood flooring. Techwood is unique and one of a kind. Your floor should be long-lasting and beautiful, like the relationships you create at home. Choose Techwood for a stunning, natural hardwood floor for everyday performance. More moments are made on Mohawk.
Welcome back to the Coahulla Creek Football Show, presented by Julian Peeples Funeral Home. In this segment of our X's and O's with Coach Carter, presented by Lowry Tree Service, we're going to look at our offensive and defensive plays of the year as voted on by the fans. Enjoy.
Welcome in as we look back on the season at our offensive and defensive plays of the games as voted by you. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball, and this was a tough one. But I think we got it right with our fans here. As we look back to the LFO game here, we start off with Chase Ward, very first offensive play of the game. We get a fake with the outside zone coming to the left towards our sideline and get everybody flowing. And then the backside of the offensive line gets everybody fanned out. And then Jesus Vieira comes up in there and gets a nice block to open that up. And then we'll get a really good downfield block by Nate Tilley there to spring Chase. And he takes that thing for 51 yards on the opening offensive play of the game to really get us rolling there. So started with a bang against them against LFO, and that's an awesome play to start the game. All right, we'll move to the defensive side here. Opening region game at Ridgeland. Jump in here, and what we end up getting in here is a brothers tag team sack here as we move forward looking at it here. Defensive line stems over, and you'll see a quarterback's worst nightmare. You get Jackson Lowry and Levi Lowry, who both defeat their block here. Jackson knocks it loose, and I think Levi kind of cleans it up and shoots that thing backwards there and ends up being a lateral there for the fumble there, and our offense will take over after that.
Welcome back again to the Coahulla Creek Football Show, presented to you by Julian Peeples Funeral Home. All right, this time, Coach, let's talk about looking ahead to next season. All right, this year we had 14 seniors, a lot of good leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We'll miss those guys. We're going to have to replace some key skill positions and some interior positions. What are you looking for next year?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. There's a lot to replace. A lot of experience there, a lot of playmakers there. I don't know if there's any way you can replace some of those guys that we talked about time and time again that led the stats column, that were good leaders for us and were big-time playmakers for us. But I think the biggest thing that we've got coming back here is we're going to bring back a really strong group up front on our offensive line. Jackson Millsaps ended up having to start the last 3 games at right tackle for us. So you get Mark Lopez back, and you're going to bring all 5 of those guys back. You got Chevy Joyce coming back at left tackle for his 3rd year as a starter.
Right.
You got Colby Ewert coming back as a 2nd-year starter. Isaac McGill kind of anchoring everything in there at the center position. So you got to feel really good about that, even though you're going to have some young skill guys around that and behind that. But it makes me really comfortable to put a young quarterback behind that. So.
Yeah, I think as far as quarterbacks go, we're looking forward to Waylon coming in. He got some time on varsity this year, got to play some JV, and looking for him to do some good things. We also need to replace some key receiving guys. A lot of our older guys were our receivers this year. We're going to have some kids, which we have a good nucleus of young guys with some size and some skills and that have some speed to replace them at receiver.
Yeah, so the off season is going to be important for those guys of getting a step faster. And a little bit stronger, but also all the experience and the nuances and the timing and all those kind of things that go along with throwing the football. So the off season will be big, how we go through the winter and how we go through the summer with them. But I definitely feel like we've got some ability to get the ball out to some of those guys that you're mentioning.
You hate to say the word satisfied. You never want to be satisfied. Nope. So what do you do during this time between now and spring back to the fall to keep these guys hungry, wanting to improve and come back every day and get better?
Well, the first thing we've got going on right now is I meet with every single one of our returning players one-on-one. And a big part of that meeting is, what are your goals for the off season? That way they've got something right in front of them that they know that they're working towards, whether it be, are we gaining weight, what's our weight room goals going to be, and then probably more than anything, make sure academics are where they need to be too. That way we don't run into any problems there. But you try to put those things right in front of their face so that they've got immediate goals right in front of their face.
Good deal. Let's talk a minute about our new region coming up this next year. Regions realigned. We're going to be faced now with a 9-team region this season, which takes us to only having 2 non-region games. We're going to have a little bit. We've got some old rivals, some good rivalry games still, but we're also going to have some new ones and a little bit more travel this year. For this coming season.
We'll start off right now. We've got penciled in. Nothing's official yet, but if everything stays the same, we'll have our non-region games will be against Northwest and against Chattooga again, and then we'll get right into region play from that. And as you mentioned, some of the region games are familiar folks to us. We'll bring back Ringgold, LFO, which we've been playing the past couple of years.
Sonoraville comes back.
Sonoraville comes back.
We played them in the past.
North Murray comes back, who was in the region with us before. So some familiar faces there, but then we'll add a few old ones too. Rockmart will come back in. We lose Adairsville, pick up Rockmart, so you kind of trade a really strong program for another really strong program. So that'll be a big challenge for us. And then the kind of the wild cards that we got thrown back in with us with some appeals was North Cobb Christian out of the metro area in Union County out of Blairsville.
Which we don't have any history with either one of those schools, so it's going to be something new for everybody.
New challenges there, but overall we're excited for what we've got going on. We've got a good group of schools that are close by that will be good local games, and then you got those 2 outliers that'll be a little bit of travel.
Right. looking forward to a new year in 2024.
Yep.
Well, Coach, I've enjoyed hanging out with you this season. It's been fun. Look forward to doing it again next season.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on our program this season. We hope you have a good evening. Remember to like our page on Facebook and join us on our YouTube page. And Coach, appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next season, and go Colt.